Okay, today we're going to be trying to fix a little bug, and it happens when both players are respawning. If both players happen to respawn, die at the same time, and respawn in the same location, you know, they spawn in the same spot, which, like that. See how they both happen to get the same random respawn point? And this is tricky on multiple levels because we've got 4 different spawn points they can come from. And then at a certain point, this platform disappears so that they're only allowed to come from these 3. So it's just, how do we prevent it? You know, it's like we've got a what do we call it? Platform spawn? Spawn point index is what we call it. So if we look at our spawn point indexes, right here. Okay. So look, this is the code to say if our platform's retracted, we're only doing a spawn point index between 1 and 3. So there's a where is the code that we're saying? There's code that we're saying what these spawn point indexes locations are. And that's right here. We have a spawn zone points table that gets a spawn point index. So where do we set this up? Spawn zone points. Where do we set this up? Right there. So we've got a table of spawn zone points, 1 through 4. And the 4th one is the platform 2 that gets retracted. So what we want to do is when we're respawning, we want to pick from an available list of spawn zone points that changes depending on whether or not platform 2 is retracted. And it also depends on whether or not a player is currently respawning in that location or still standing there from a respawn, because if the other player is standing right where the spawn zone is, you know, it is, then we can't really spawn underneath it. So we need to come up with a way to modify our spawn zone point, not our spawn zone point table, but our spawn zone point, our spawn point index. That's what we want. So I think the first step is going to be to just print up what our spawn point index values are, but they get assigned based on the respawn of each player, so it's not like it's so I think instead of Okay, I think instead of doing a random spawn point index, what we want to do is do a random of the available spawn points. So we need to be able to keep track of a table that has potentially four values, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if platform 2 is retracted, we no longer have 4 because that spawn zone point is the platform 2. Yeah, so we would no longer have 4. So we want a table that has these 3 different values. The 3 different values are all the possible spawn zone points that are legal. So then we need to modify that to say, hey, if platform 2 is not retracted, go ahead and include 4. However, if player 2 is standing, either if player 2 is respawning or currently standing on that location of the other spawn zone point, then take that out of our potential spawn zone points. So like, does that make any sense? So instead of assigning the spawn point index based on a random number, we want to assign it based on a random number of our 3 available or 4 available legal spawn zone points. So instead of doing this, we want to do a math.random value of our table. So like, call it legal spawns. Call it legal spawns, I guess. Right? So like we'll say up here, we'll say legal spawns gets a table. That table has a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4. And that's kind of what we start with. Legal spawns with an S. So that is going to be the pool of values that our math.random is currently getting pulled from. We need to change that, but we need to update this legal spawns depending on if platform 2 is retracted. So where do we do a platform 2 retract? We do it in wave 6. So and the platform retract goes over time. If it is retracted, okay, so if it is retracted, this loop here says, okay, we're not retracted, so go ahead and retract it. And then by the time it gets retracted, how does that work? How does this ever become true? Well, I guess it becomes true on the last frame that this works. It gets flipped to true, and then it becomes retracted. Then we get the ground name. So let's try here where we say legal spawns now gets a table of 1, 2, and 3. So let's go to wave 5. We'll actually print up all the values of legal spawns on our screen as debugging. So we can do that here. We say for I, comma b in pairs of legal spawns do, and then we say print out print out the value. Like we'll say, well, yeah, well, I guess we'll just print out the numbers, right? So we'll just say print out a string value of our legal spawns table at our index of I. So that should hopefully print up all of the legal spawns. But we need an X and a Y for all this. So the X will be 0. Let's do 5. And then the Y will be 5 times whatever our I is, or 5, yeah, 5 plus whatever our I is. No, I times 2, maybe. I don't know. Let's see. That looks gross. Maybe it's a times 5. Okay, maybe it's a times 10. There we go. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are our legal spawns, which at this point of the game is 1, 2, 3, 4. So love.graphics.setColor for the pure white, just cosmetic, and then platform 2 retracts at wave 6. Is that right? Platform 2 dot retract in wave 6. So let's go to wave. Actually, yeah, let's go straight to wave 6, and it should update. If we go here to wave 6, it should start out as the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then as platform 2 retracts and it gets fully retracted, it should be just 3. We didn't save our wave, I guess. Save. Nope. What am I doing? Okay, save. Run. And we're not doing it. Where are we saying our wave, dude? Doing it again right here. Okay. So wave 6. We'll go back to this other wave. Okay. That works. So now instead of picking up, as soon as platform 2 gets retracted there, our legal platform spawns number shrank. So like this is 1, this would have been 2, this is 3, this is 4. So now we need to do a similar thing, but not, that's a lot of vultures. Not when the platform retracts, but when player 2 is spawning at a certain spawn zone point, we need to remove said spawn zone point. Like here, that's spawn zone point 1. What just happened there? Okay, so I think we're on the right track. But we need to assign our spawn zone point, not based off a spawn zone point index, based off a random number, but based off a random value from this legal spawn zone table that we now built. Spawn zone index? What was it called? It was called a player 1 respawn. Okay, so if see, and this actually, now that we're handling the legal case, once platform 2 becomes retracted, we don't have to do this random number based on whether or not platform 2 is retracted or not, because we are already updating that legal spawn zone table. Let me make sure what we're calling that. Just legal spawns. Okay. So we don't want this. But what we do want is to set a spawn zone, dude, what am I thinking? What do we gotta do? Legal spawns. So we're gonna set our spawn point index to be a random value, but not just a random value of, say, between 3, but a random actual value of our spawn point index. Not of our legal spawns, rather. So legal spawns, and the hashtag is the actual value. So it's saying see, so what's tough is we don't want this. I don't exactly know how this would work. If the value, I don't know if it's saying math.random, get a random value from all the values in this legal spawns table, or if it's saying take the value of legal spawns, which is just a bunch of tables, bunch of values, and getting a random number through that. I don't really know, because we want a random value, not a random index, if that makes sense, because we could be standing on 1 on spawn zone point 1, meaning we don't want that to be in the potential values. And then the only way to really test this is to, I guess, see if we spawn at a place that hopefully is legal. So far, so good. It looked like it worked. It looks like we didn't spawn there, so this might be working like I hoped. I guess the question is, let's try this again. But let's manually say legal spawns is only 1 value or 2 values, and then see if that's still going appropriately. So where do we do our legal spawns? Here. So if platform 2 is retracted, how about we say, you know what, we're just 2 values. Let's see. Okay, 2 values. So now I should only be the top 2, or the middle 2 spawn zone points, not the bottom. Okay. That seems to be it. It's not spawning at the bottom. That seems to be it. So I believe if we can remove only, see, and that's the other thing. So it's like, let's say player 2 spawning on spawn zone point 2. So that should be removed from the table. Now, how do we remove the value that's in the table and not the index of the table? And when we insert the legal spawn back into the table, does it matter if it's ordered? I don't know. I really don't know. It's a tough fix. I guess the first thing to do is to make a little value that we can just debug for now that says, hey, like once a player is respawning somewhere, then that number of spawn zone index becomes removed from our legal spawns table. That value becomes removed from that table until they are either temporary safety or their X position is no longer right over that spawn zone point. So we could maybe, and maybe we do it with the X location like that, so we don't have to keep track. I don't know. Let's see if we can remove the value of the table and not the index. So let's say platform 2 is retracted. How would we remove not the index 2, even though this would be index 2, because Lua is one index. Let me just, for demonstration purposes, put a 1 1 2 3 here. So we've got a 1 1 2 3 once platform 2 is retracted. Now we want to remove the value 2, not the index 2. So can we do something like table.remove list and position? See, it's asking for the position, not the... So if the list we want to remove from is legal spawns and the position is... we have to do a loop. We have to do a loop here. We would have to say for I comma v in pairs of our legal spawns, do, and we would say if, and say we would cycle through that. So we say if our legal spawns at our index is equal to the 2 value, then we would table.remove from our legal spawn table the value or the position of I. So now instead of getting 1 1 2 3, hopefully we just have 1 1 3. And if that's the case, then we can figure out 1 1 3. That's the money. So now we would need to do, and this table would get out of order depending on what order people are spawning into different zones, but this proves that we can remove it by value, so that if player 2 is spawning at spawn zone point 2, we take it out of the legal spawns so that no one can spawn at that point until that person's X is outside of that range. And if we do it not based on the Y, but just on the X position of the other player, or of both players technically, we can ensure that even if a player is standing, a living player is standing on a spawn zone point and they aren't spawning there, that the other player can't spawn right underneath their feet while they're standing there. So that could be it. So let's see. I'm feeling good about that. I think that's it. So if platform 2 is retracted, once platform 2 becomes retracted, our legal spawns get reset to 1, 2, 3. Now we could reset it to be ordered upon every wave change, which we might do just for potential bug sake. But this is the kind of logic we need to remove once another player is spawning. So like remove spawn point. I'm just gonna comment this out for now because we need to find where this goes. Because, and actually, we need to... Okay, I got an idea. We just need to check the X position. And if the X is the same as the 3 or 4 spawn zone points, if it has the same window of X, this is tough. We need to remove that corresponding spawn zone point from the legal spawns, but as soon as we're out of that X position, we need to add that table back in, or that spawn zone point back in, which is really tough. That's really tough. What's the way of going about that? Because we have to add it back in, but if platform 2 is retracted, for instance, and we're out of the X position, we don't want to add it back in because platform 2 is retracted, so... We... Because, yeah, we're trying to prevent player 2 from spawning underneath player 1 when player 1 is standing on the spawn zone point. It shouldn't be able to spawn there, so... So I think what we need to do is to cycle through our legal spawns. Okay, and we check both players' X position against all the current legal spawns. Now, if the X is within the given window of any spawn zone, any legal spawn's X, then we need to remove that value from legal spawn's table. And then, how do we add it back? Well, platform 2 makes it complicated. So how would we add in? We would add in the value, unless it's platform 2 retracted. We would add in the value if we're not at the given X. Ugh. So maybe what we do, where do we remove? Okay, so we remove. So this is what needs to change. Like this works for this. We're updating our legal spawns to not have platform 2. Actually, it's legal. Okay, spawn point index 4 is the platform 2 spawn point zone. And we did it like that because a table.remove takes out the last index, I guess, if you don't give it a list position. So we need to assign back in every legal spawn point that either player isn't hoarding the X over. and only add in 2 if platform 2 is not retracted. So I think it's possible. I think we can do it. So what's the first move? I should have wrote down what I said. We gotta cycle through all our legal spawns and compare it to both players. And if either player's X is within a certain window of the X of each of the legal spawns, we remove that value. And then what we need to do is go back and add in the values that are not covered. See, how do you do that with 2 players? Because we need to detect when they're not over it. So maybe we default. Yeah, maybe we default to a, like, we don't worry about adding, we don't worry about adding legal spawn points back in. All we do is set the base legal spawns and only remove, we'll set it each frame. We'll set the base legal spawns and we only remove the values if either player is in the X window of any of those legal spawns. X positions. So where would we do that? Do we gotta do that in the wave state or the wave logic? I mean, ideally let's just write a function for it. And then we can run the legal spawn function every wave, which will initialize all the legal spawns and then remove any that have an X position of our player being in the wrong spot. That's the move. So let's go to wave 1. Now, instead of doing our function, which we're gonna do a legal spawn function. So that's what it's gonna look like. But what we're trying to do is, let's add some pseudocode here. We need to set legal spawn table, and then we need to remove values that share X with either player. And then that's it. That's all we have to do. So and then the effective adding back in the legal spawn zone, if we're not there, will just happen here, because we'll give ourselves the default legal spawn table and we don't remove any because our X positions aren't conflicting. So let's go find our spawn zone points. Spawn zone points. Here are the X values for us to compare against. So let me just take a look at these. So we want a function that basically maps our X values and compares it to each X value of these things. So let's have a let's have a variable called conflict, and conflict will get set true if the X position of our player is in the realm of, let's start with platform 3's spawn zone. X. So we'll say if player, for now we're just doing player 1x. If player 1x is smaller than, we can do, greater than the x of this platform 3.x plus 20. Let's just see. This isn't right, and I know it's not right. I'm just trying to do it a tiny step at a time. So we'll say conflict gets true. And we'll say otherwise conflict gets false. So at this point, as soon as our player 1 is to the right of the leftmost part of our spawn zone 1, which is our platform 3 spawn zone on the left, if player 1 is to the right of that, conflict should get set to true, and if it's to the left of it, it should be false. So let's give us the conflict up here to initialize it, and then we will go down here and give us a love.graphics print conflict. So love.graphics dot print, and we're going to say conflict, and then we're going to say concatenate that with a string of our conflict boolean, and we want to print it up at, let's say 5 and let's say 50. And now it should start true, and it's not. Are we running that? Oh, that's wave 5. That's wave 5. We got to go to wave 1. So let's go to wave 1. That was wave 6. So we're at wave 1. Conflict false. Okay, it's still not working. Oh. Okay, platform 3 is here. That's that one. Okay. Okay, so okay, so spawn zone point 1 is the one on the right. So that's a little confusing, but it doesn't really matter what order it's in. Let's just say that this one, we'll say this one is rightmost, and we know this is the top. And then we know this one is the bottom, which leaves this one to be the left. Okay, so now let's do this so that it is platform player greater than platform 4, and then platform 4L X plus and let's just copy this because we can. Platform 4L width plus or minus 27. Okay. So, and here is where we need like a little constant. Let's go to our constants, and we'll call this constant spawn safety width, and we'll give it 25 maybe. So if our player 1x is smaller than that platform, that leftmost platform, or is greater than that leftmost platform, and our player 1x is smaller than that value plus the constant we just made. So we'll go back here and yank this, and we'll say smaller than that plus the spawn safety width. Player X is smaller than that, then conflict is true. So what we're looking for is conflict to be true when our X position is aligned with this spawn zone point. Come on, dude. Here, let's go up here. Okay. So we're greater than that, but it's not quite what I was expecting. Because we want it to be true, like right here. Oh, and it's because, yeah, until our left side is greater than the spawn zone point. Okay, so let's shift over the left side of it. And the right side is kind of fine. So like our player X minus our player dot width needs to be greater than that. Let's see what that looks. That's not what I was wanting. Okay, if our player X is greater than, we need to do our X would need to be greater than this minus our player width. And our leftmost side, we can actually say our rightmost side plus player 1.width. Our rightmost side would be smaller than the width plus our spawn safety window. Let's try that. Nice. That looks good. So look, I don't want any vultures to be able to spawn at this point if an ostrich is standing right here. That's looking good because, and we could do the X position or the Y position as well. And we might. So look, if I'm here, the ostrich can't, the other one isn't going to be able to spawn there. So we can shrink the safety zone just a little bit, I think. Yeah, I think we can afford to shrink it just a bit. And then we can also limit it to the Y as well. The general Y, not because if we're in the air, we don't want it to spawn right beneath them and then they fall right onto it also. So if we go to our constants, we can make our safety width a little smaller. I think we can get away with 20. We'll see how that looks. But we also want to check the Y. So like if our player 1.y trying to think of the flow of the logic here, because we want to say if we're that and our Y, conflict true, otherwise false. So we want to do an and. I don't like doing so many ands. It's like if that and the Y position. So I guess we can say here then if the y, this, okay, and then we might just have to do another conflict is false. Why am I not realizing? Where does the end, the else if go in the? Why wouldn't this go here like this? Why does that look so wrong? So if we're gonna say if player 1's y is smaller than the ground platform y, meaning we're above it, and it's not the ground platform y, it's platform 4L. Platform 4L dot y. If we are smaller than that, platform 4LY, then conflict is true, else conflict is false, and if we're not either of those, conflict is false. That's messy, but let me see. If 283. If player 1y is smaller than platform 4LY, then conflict is true, else it's false. So like, do we just need an end here? Okay, so look, conflict is no longer true if we're down here, but oh, come on. Oh, I'm really bad at this game. Okay, nice. So we need to go a little bit more on that platform safety. But then we also need to limit our Y on the height, not just the bottom, because that would be a conflict too. So we can go maybe a third of the screen. So if player 1y is smaller than that, but also greater than player 1y is gonna be greater than I don't know. We'd have to do a certain kind of something there. And player 1y is greater than let's just say 50, maybe. I don't know. 50 is a lot, no? What's the total height is like? So let's go back to here and say 24, and then we'll say spawn safety height, and we'll give it 40 or 50. Let's start with 50. Player safety height. So let's go minus player safety height. Player or safety. What do we call it? Spawn safety height. Spawn safety height, which we don't have. Spawn safety height, we should have it. Okay. So we should only have that conflict if we're above it, and not too far above it. We can be, come on. This shouldn't be a conflict. Good, it isn't. But if we're right above it, it should be. Yep. 50 looks just about perfect for that. We could probably go to 60 on that height. And we need to, yeah, we got to increase our safety width still. So let's go to 30 and then change this to 60. Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect. Okay, so what's left to do is we gotta do this for every platform and be able to detect a conflict, and then we follow our little order of operations here, which is it's gonna be a function, but in the function it's gonna be, we set our current legal spawn values, which unless platform 2 is retracted, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we go cycle through every, and we need to do this for not only player 1, but for player 2 against all the spawn zone points. And if our X is in conflict with any of those points, we need to remove that value from the table of our legal spawns. And then every frame, let's say we move out of that space, we set those legal spawn values right away, and we wouldn't remove them if the player moved out of the place. So by the time the player 1 or 2 is spawning, it's pulling from the values, pulling from the only legal spawns, which if platform 2 is retracted and player 1 is standing on, let's say, spawn zone 2 or whatever, then there's only 2 possible locations they could spawn. So we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm feeling good about it. I think I've wrapped my head around the problem, and I think we can finish it by next episode. I just got to get to sleep because I've got to drive across town in the morning. So let's take a look at our git diff. And what we did, we gave ourselves a couple constants for this, what we're calling legal spawns table, which is going to replace our spawn zone point index, because we actually need to update our spawn zone point index based on what our legal spawns are. So we've got a little bit of collision detection for right now, only this platform or spawn zone point 2. We need to do all 4 of them, and then we've got some pseudocode for a function that we're gonna be using to limit the spawn zone points for a given player. So it's coming together, and we're rendering some debug info. It's coming together. I'm gonna say we started to add started to add spawn zone point legal spawn table for non-conflicting spawn zone index points. Okay, we'll push it. So yeah, tomorrow we'll be hopefully finishing that function, getting that functionality in there, and that is gonna be, that's one of the trickiest fixes that we have left. Other than that, we have very few things to do before we ship the game. So Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you tomorrow for some more progress.